Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Wardruna, Kvitravn, out January 22nd on Sony Music. This album has 11 tracks, 65 minutes in length, and this is the band's fifth full-length studio album. They're a Norwegian folk atmospheric band that's releasing an album that, for someone who doesn't speak the language, had to approach it in a different perspective. This is an album that's hard for me to review because I can't hold on to all the different elements of the record and break them down and really understand the journey that I was on. So I had to take a different glance, I had to take a different approach, and I'm here to tell you exactly what that approach was and how it felt to me. Let's start off with the structure of the album. This is a record that felt simple from that perspective, very cohesive, very balanced. If I was to use a metaphor to describe this album, I would say that this record is a tree and every song is a branch. So the songs feed into the tree and the tree then feeds back out into the branches. The album and tracks are very interconnected as far as the experience is concerned. But this is definitely an album that you can just forget about where you were, where you are, and where you're going. The album does all the work for you. You lose yourself in it and you start to feel like you're navigating through it in a very easy way. It's not an album that you have to work your way through it. The record does all the hard labor, does all the heavy lifting on your behalf. You just kind of have to absorb everything that's coming your way with every single track and not necessarily care about where you are on the track list and care about all the different momentums. All of that becomes secondary. It's all about the experience. It's all about the moment. Each song allows you to be in the moment, but not necessarily forget about the overall experience that the album has in store for you. Once you get into the atmosphere of this record, or the soundscape I should call it, the atmosphere is definitely one of the elements of that soundscape. The other two is the recording and the experience. I really feel like these three elements push the overall sensation, how this album comes across, at least to me, someone, like I said before, who doesn't understand the lyrics and perhaps is losing a little bit of what this record is all about. So I had to hold on to different things, and the things that I hold on is the breakdown of that soundscape into those three different elements. Let's start off with the recording. I felt that this album was extremely well recorded. This is a record that lives off of the sound that it has, that lives off of the lyrics, but it also lives off of the interchange, the morphing of these elements all coming together across 11 songs. So it's very important that the album allows you to understand each and every single element, how they're there, what they're there for, how they're interacting with each other, and then the final result, which is the song itself. Almost like if you're walking through nature, you're walking through a forest, and perhaps you're not paying attention to your surroundings, you miss out on a lot of different things that are happening. You miss out on a bird singing, on a cricket, or a branch that broke, or a waterfall, because you're so focused perhaps on the wrong things. This album allowed me to focus on the essence of the record. So as I was walking through it, or breezing through it, if you will, I was able to really look at all the different things that the album had in store, how they were broken apart, but then how they all came together in order to give you the full essence of the record. Like I said, like as if I was walking through nature, I could listen to the drums, I could listen to the vocals, I could listen to the atmosphere that was creating, how the different styles were coming together, how the different instruments were working in parallel in order to create something much larger than the individuality of themselves. So all of this was really important to me because I had to hold on to it. But the way it was recorded, it allowed me to appreciate the completion of the work, the full result of all of these things coming together, but also the individuality of each and every single one of them as they work on their own lane, as they work at their own pace. The next element is the atmosphere, and this to me was perhaps the most important one, because the sound, the experience really created this atmosphere that is the main driving force for how I perceived this record. The atmosphere on this album is not unique across the whole record. Every song has its own. Every song gives you a different emotion. Every song makes you feel different about it. So therefore, the atmosphere that it carries is very unique to that song itself. Having said that, the balance, the cohesiveness that the album has allows you to have this almost uniform umbrella that holds all of these different feelings within it. So it's a really interesting album that doesn't have just one way of being perceived. It just doesn't have one way of being digested, but it gives you a different feeling, a different look with every single song, but in the bigger picture brings them all together and allows you to go through this emotional roller coaster as you navigate across all 11 tracks. Last but not least, the experience. To me, one of the key elements of this experience is obviously the recording quality of the album, how it matches the atmosphere, but then you look at the sound itself, and the percussions on this record are that experience. They became the heartbeat of this record. Sometimes I felt like they represented a human heartbeat. Sometimes I felt they represented the heartbeat of nature itself. Really interesting approach, but something that I could feel, something that it was there, that was palpable. I could listen to it and I could almost move my head at the same pace as the percussions were coming along within the track. So it was one of the elements that enhanced the overall experience of the album, that enhanced the overall feel, the overall emotional drive that this record carries, and it's definitely in the forefront almost across every single song. There's other musical elements, other instruments that play a very important role in that experience, in that atmosphere, and how they were recorded. But I really felt the percussions, at least to me, was the one that I connected more with, because like I said, it had that sense of a heartbeat. And when you don't understand the lyrics and you're trying to navigate through an album and you're trying to understand a record, you're trying to understand the message that it has, and you're trying to put to words how it feels to you, you need something substantial. You need something that you can feel, that you can hear, that has layers, that has depth. And I felt the percussions was definitely that across this album. Once you get into the vocals, I think the vocals play a very important role. And I really enjoy the fact that they didn't have one single approach from the first song to the last song. They really changed, morph, give you different feels, different perspectives as you progress down the line. And that is important. You have a record that has the uniqueness from track to track, has the uniqueness of atmosphere, still all coming together as one. The vocals were the same approach. I love the backing vocals, I love the choirs, and I love the feel that they have of being a shaman. When you listen to this album, you honestly can see yourself around a campfire and there's a shaman telling you stories. There's a shaman putting this almost psychedelic experience forward. At times, that's exactly how the vocals felt. I'm not saying that this is a psychedelic album, because musically is not and vocally is definitely not, but the emotion that it carries, the experience that it gives you, the atmosphere that it creates is definitely one of a shaman. You feel like you're transporting yourself into a different universe. You're transporting yourself into a different state of mind. You're leaving your physical being and you're going into a much different place where physicality is not necessarily as important as the emotions that you feel in that moment. And I felt that the vocals played a very important role in that, because they deliver the emotion that the lyrics said. And while I don't understand the lyrics, I can definitely feel the emotion in that tone, in that delivery, and changing ever so slightly from track to track allow the songs to have a different feel, a different life, and to really guide me through sometimes the haze that this album becomes. Overall, this is an incredible record. Like I said, very hard record to define. You can definitely not put it in a genre. It's outside of a genre. It's outside of the box. And this is a record that's hard to put into words. Sometimes you see something or you're listening to something and you just know how it makes you feel. You just have something inside of you, but you just can't exteriorize it. This record is that. It's that it factor that you can't just put it to words, because words are not going to be enough to describe how it comes across, the essence that it has. Now, as far as favorite tracks, I want to start off with Synkverv. This is the opening track on the album, and it's musically haunting. Beautiful track from a musical perspective, very haunting, but also very powerful from a vocal perspective. So you have these two different dynamics. Musically haunting, a little bit dark, a little bit somber, vocally powerful, pushing the song forward, feeling like you're on top of the mountain. That's how these two elements come together, and that ignites the spirit of the song itself. It introduces you to the record. It has a little bit of a conservative, warm approach. It feels a little bit as giving you a little bit of an introduction in terms of what to expect from this record, musically, vocally, but also from an atmosphere point of view. So it has a lot of different elements coming together, and it allows you to ease yourself. It almost feels like an intro, but it is a track at the same time. So it has this duality of roles, and that duality of roles is definitely present on the divide that exists between the musical and the vocals, but a song that has a lot of power, that has a lot of strength, and that really allows you to just absorb it. And then once you're into this track, you're completely in for the rest of the album. Next is Moonin, a more stripped song. This is a song that allows the vocals to be the guide, to be your shaman, if you will, to really push the song forward. It allows you to hold you by the hand and take you down the path. Musically, it's still strong. It has some atmospheric elements that balance out perfectly with how the vocals come across. But you really feel like musically this track took a little bit more of a backseat, allowing the vocals to come more into the forefront, to be more of the driver, and not depending as much on the musicality of the track itself in order to give you the message that it had in store for you. Because of that, it feels a little bit simple, and it allows itself to penetrate very easily into your soul when you're listening to it. It becomes almost a mist, and that's how you digest this track as you progress through it. Very well delivered, but a very powerful song. It has a very emotional, has a lot of emotional strength in how it comes across and how you perceive it as the listener. Last but not least, me, and I love this track. The start off of the track, you hear this fire pit. You hear the crackle of the wood in the fire, and that brought to life the idea of a shaman. I really felt like I was sitting at that campfire as I'm listening to this song. I felt like I was there. I felt like I was at a ceremony. That's exactly how this song comes across. It really feels like a ceremonial track from beginning all the way to the end. Adding the choirs, adding the backing vocals just brings that feeling, that essence to life, because it goes from being led by the leader of the tribe, the leader of the village, if you will, the spiritual leader of the village, and becoming a full-on experience. Everybody coming together as one in unison in order to have the full spirit come to life as far as this song is concerned. I love how it feels, I love how it sounds, and I love those atmospheric elements. That fire pit, the cracking of the wood is absolutely phenomenal. It adds a different layer to how this song comes across. This is it. This is Wardruna with Kvitravn, out January 22nd on Sony Music. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.